Hi everyone, and welcome to today's episode of the Good Planets podcast. This is a big one. This is one that kind of is defining why we wanted to set up this series anyway. Today we're welcoming to his own studio, to the Badu studio. It's the CEO and founder of Badu Sports, Nana Badu.
Thank you for having me, guys.
Your words, mate. We've spoken about this a lot before, but the whole point of this show is for us to be privileged enough to sit on this side and talk to some incredibly inspiring individuals that are really walking the walk. They're game changing. They're impacting people's lives in a positive way. They've got so many lessons that they can share with us and we can talk through, and so many lessons that hopefully the viewers of our show can sort of take and advance their own creativity in their own lives at a faster pace because of these chats. So thank you so much for joining us today. We're absolutely stoked to have you. I suppose for anyone that doesn't really know that much about Badu Sports and your amazing work in youth, so maybe if you want to sort of start off with telling us about Badu Sports and then who is Nana Badu?
Oh, cool. So who's not? It's like that's quite unique in terms of that question. It says, who am I away from the organization, isn't it? So I suppose we're probably one of the same sometimes. So Badu is an organization that uses sports as a vehicle to educate, empower, and uplift, but it's like the 5% of things. Mostly it's about community development, it's about knowledge sharing, it's about growth, it's about just understanding like some of the challenges, but also the blessings and how you move forward. It's about the opportunity to compete. So it's all about just constant learning and evolution of humanity and what we do next collectively together. Who am I? Founder-ish? I'm joking. It depends. But I'm just the person honored enough to have the knowledge or the vision to say, right, this is how we got to push. Just because of that feeling that comes along as well. Yeah.
You moved over from Ghana when you were how old?
10.
So tell me about that. Yeah. What was it like coming to the UK from Ghana as a child?
Coming to the UK from Ghana as a child. I wanted to go back straight away. I always remember just didn't feel right. You could always think about coming to the UK or coming to some sort of first world development and it being the most exciting place. But I think I was quite comfortable with almost the luxury of simplicity and freedom in that aspect, and also just existing in comfort in my own skin, in my own movement and so on. As a child, I didn't really understand the freedom in which I had until I came here. Yeah, because I remember that, I forgot to mention, I actually tried to leave and thought I can walk back to Ghana as soon as we got here. Immediately you're not seen. Immediately.
Well, you're invisible.
Yeah, it's almost like either you're overseen or not seen at all. Everyone is so on their own. It's like I don't know, I just feel like we're just some sort of machine, just everyone's operating in that. Africa, coming from where... you found joy in so many little things. You cannot have this, but it still becomes this, or you can create this out of this. Here it's on what you have, what you do, what you own, what you produce.
Productivity.
Literally, which I feel like it's a good thing, but there's also everything should be balanced. Where is the placement on the same aspect on have you taken time for your sleep? Have you taken time for rest? Have you connected with family? Have you connected with people? I think that's just the balance that wasn't. Yeah, there was I feel like there's a lot of things that take place in order to shape the mind of what it is you want to do. So me coming to where I am mentally and emotionally and visually at the moment is based around a lot of things. So grew up in a very Christian household. I remember this was even before coming to the UK. We spent a lot of time in prayer, in church and so on. And I used to, I hated it. I'm not gonna lie, I hated it because I just felt, what did that mean after? I just felt like we spent time and didn't do anything. And it was kind of the same in coming here. I think I've just naturally had this urgency to like, let's do something on the physical aspect, which probably being young, I think if I grew up here even younger, I'll probably be labelled with the ADHD or some sort of like learning difficulties and so on, processing that. And I think that's the things like that kind of shaped my understanding of like, I just felt like I need to do something. So football, sports was key, because in that moment you can support, compete, fail, win, learn, and it's all quite immediate with sport. It was giving me the validation and the immediate feeling that I needed at the time. So, and then what I didn't think I was going to get from that was very much the things I didn't expect. So I didn't expect like my first boots was given to me by my coach, because we didn't have that. Like we didn't have boots. Like first of all, like mum's working. There's 4 of us. She's not going to have that excess cash to buy one child boots. She'll try her best, but eating and clothing and having a roof over our head is priority. So, and we understood that very quickly as well. We had our responsibility, so that was quite nice. And then I think what sports did for me more than just like doing well and winning was more the exposure to find out about different people's lives. So a friend of mine would, like, the training before, my mum can't go, so a friend of mine's parent will say, well, we'll pick them up after school and then we'll take them with us. And so then I was exposed to their household and how they lived. And then just the kindness that they showed as well. And then throughout that whole time, it's also just understand that there are different advantage points. How I remember one point where if I ever said to my mum, I'm not doing my homework, you probably won't see me existing today. Whereas one of my friends would say to his, like, I'm not doing it today, like it's all right. And then I just looked at the response that I was like, listen, like, when we're going back to school, I'm like, you're gonna get in trouble. It's like, oh, whatever. And then he never got in trouble. And I was just like, what is this? So just subtle, like, yes, kindness, but also like different expectations and treatments of who's what that I started to notice quite early. How I remember getting in trouble. I was saying before, I got in trouble for my language, like English speaking and listening aspect. And I was just like, I've been here like 4 or 5 months and I'm already being judged for what I can't do. She hasn't asked me once that I can speak 3 other languages that she don't know how to speak. But that's not class as knowledge. Just not being able to speak the English language means that you are not of a certain criteria. And that hit me very early, because I was like, I can speak like 3 languages and I can understand English and I'm trying, like.
She can speak 1.
Yeah. But then that's the judgment of like what we started to see. So I don't know why, I don't know why so young I'm starting to think about the clarity of things being slightly unfair and how we judged what success was and what good was. Who made that judgment as the right judgment? And I've always been quite defiant as a child, I'll be honest. There's things that people will say, if I didn't feel right, I would challenge it. So I would challenge the teacher, which is then defiance, which means you start having a reputation of just challenging. But if you just didn't feel like a certain way, I'm just not gonna sit there and be quiet. So yeah, and then we have Badu because of like that, I think, because there was just stuff that wasn't, and it wasn't me, I didn't want to like complain about it. I'll ask the question, I'll ask it very clearly. If you can't give me the answer, I'll just be like, well, that's your perception and that's your bias in terms of how you think. But I think there's another way. And that wasn't the thing of like, I dislike you or disregard you. I just think there's another way. I respect your view, but I think there's another way. And I'm just going to build the other way or do the other way.
It's an amazing like reframing from such a young age to be like, yeah, okay, so we're measuring everything on what you can't do, but what you're thinking to ask what can you do, right? And you mentioned it there, like, you know, the other way, like, is that the Badu way? What is the Badu way?
And I think that's probably it. Like, I haven't even defined it, and I didn't even come up with the Badu way, to be honest. It was more or less the people that have, like, it's mostly some of the young people who called it the Badu way. I think there was lots of people trying to rebrand the organization, and when they kept getting asked, what is it? What does Badu do? They were just like, I don't know, it's just just the way we do things, and then I think just got stuck in that way. So like everything else, it's kind of like we couldn't find how to define it that meant for branding or so on to sit. So we just called it what we felt like it was. It's just our way, and if it's not in the dictionary, it exists in our knowledge. And if you feel it, you know it. It's almost like that aspect of like explaining what is faith, or what is you feeling something so deeply that it's hard to get everyone else to believe. Also, you just go, well, this is, and then most of the time you say, well, God made it happen. Like, it's just, you can't really explain that. You just have to be grateful for it and move on.
Yeah, you don't want to think about it too much.
Yeah, literally.
Yeah, beyond words, isn't it? It's a feeling, isn't it?
Yeah.
And yeah, as you said, if you know, you know.
Yeah. But I would honestly say all of it, in terms of trying to think about what it is, it's like, I spent a lot of time the last couple of months reflecting on the things that we don't know. So as an organization, and as we're developing often in our learning, I'm always welcoming. So it's quite crazy that I look at what we can do and what the space we can do differently. But I'm also reflecting on what I don't know and what I need to relearn in order to add to as well. So it's just, there's just space to evolve, really.
Phenomenal.
There's so much that we could go into from there. Is that, it's that growth mindset that you've got all the time, isn't it? It's like, okay, this is fantastic. What don't I know that I don't know? You know, and yes, it's a phenomenal example for everyone that's part of the Badu family, to see someone that's constantly
and that's just so rare.
Been looking to. I've always like the number of times we've sort of spent together.
Yeah,
I was joking with Toby before off camera. It's like, it's a Venn diagram almost with like three kind of circles. You've got like the impact that you're having, the leadership, and the way you do things, and the constantly trying to improve. And then what I think is just one of the most incredible traits of everyone that's success at that level is the humility that you bring to it, which is it's unbelievably impressive. And
I mean, you have to be humble because you're of service.
Yeah.
I am fortunate all the time that I get to meet people that teach me something new. Yeah. And most of the time, I just think the source is in young people, or it's in the people that you've never encountered. But mostly for me, it's young people. Because you essentially say, we want to do something for the future or so on as well. If the future's right in front of you, they are essentially trying to build and navigate a world and have. It's almost like everyone is given the skills they need for whatever they need to go next. Whatever you're meant to take in life, you have actually got the skills, the whole process to learn throughout it. And I'm not trying to build a world based on my own personal views for the future. Like, no, for instance, my son, who is 8 now, if I try and prepare him for what he's going to be at 21, I have no idea what he's going to be at 21. He has no idea what he's 21, but he has a better clue about the person he needs to become to do that. So should I just listen, guide, and support with that as well, whilst trying to give him the fundamentals? But there is essentially, I don't know, I just feel like that if young people are the future, then we should really spend more time listening and helping them get it wrong as much as possible, so that they'll be the person they need to be for when it happens.
No, it's amazing. You mentioned the service element of like the mentality that kind of is the through line through everything you do, and it's that service mentality trying to serve, isn't it? And I'm wondering if you could just talk to that a little bit more for a minute as well.
Well, that being service.
Yeah, just your whole ethos of why you're doing almost a bigger why of your work and what you're trying to achieve.
Yeah, I think it comes from so the activism aspect came from like trying to ensure that people are not treated in a certain way or feel the way I felt. So initially it was just first to just do that. And then as you're doing that, you realize that actually by building this, you're actually serving and supporting so many people didn't even know they needed this. So then, and sometimes when they say, oh my gosh, this really helped me. And you're thinking, I actually never built it to help you. I just happened to do it for myself. And then it was extra. And then you've managed to have the extra. And then I think you start to develop that actually, well, if I start to build, not just for myself, but for others, you're essentially in service, and then therefore, I don't know, is it work or is it just a mindset? But then therefore you become more humble. You're not, no one's pushing you or prodding you to do something. No one said to you, you have to, you said, or you feel like, and you know that this is where I'm supposed to be. This is where I feel the most comfortable, when I generally see things happening that are making or changing something for the positive, for lives that are here now or that lives that are to come. And I think that's the thing of being service. Like, I just feel like that's my, but everyone else will, probably in the organization, will have a different views, which we welcome often, as long as they know that they are of service in some way, even if it's to their self, to their higher self of who they are, to developing their own character, developing their own skill. You're still of service to that gift of life. And then from there, then we then become, I mean, when you find that out, then you then become of service to someone else. If you cater to if you serve yourself really well, you will serve others.
The more you can advance and enhance yourself with new skills and experience, with a way of doing things, like a courageous way of doing things, like the more you can, it's just the more you can impact and serve others, isn't it? The more you can put into yourself, then so it isn't. Yeah, so.
No, we are actually a developmental organization. We are constantly evolving the mindsets, the spaces, the thinking, based on the unique vulnerabilities that we have. So we recognize we don't have this, or we don't have that, and so on. So we've had to like reflect, adjust, and then develop in order to adapt to that bit.
And what are the things you're most proud of when you look at everything Badu's achieved?
I'll say I'm most proud of my personal learning than anything else. Like, I just feel like I've had the opportunity to be somewhere that has shaped me into like deep understanding. So I think I'll say I'm most proud of that than anything else, because the other aspect will be for other people, or things that have been built or things that are happening. I get to connect with people based on how I arrive and present, and what spaces I present myself into. And if I wasn't aware of that characteristic or that understanding, we can't connect and build together. So if I'm understanding myself and constantly building a space of developing myself and recognizing my challenges, my flaws, my wins, my weaknesses, my strengths, where I don't actually have a clue. I mean, I think when we're doing the cafe, there was a bit where I wanted a space. I knew exactly what I wanted, but I didn't feel like just that justification for myself was going to be enough. So I needed to seek how I speak to someone with like severe mental health challenges and what they feel like in that space. So by arriving in the space of vulnerability, saying like, I'm not sure how I sort this out, and speak to some of my friends who I know that really struggle with mental health, and saying, what would this space look like so I don't get it wrong. I had to almost go into a mindset of understanding that they were the masters of something that I had no idea. And I'm a humble student to learn from them in order for us to build better. Whereas I could have just been, I'm the CEO with all the ideas. No, like, you don't know anything. So that constant understanding where I am or where I'm not at. I mean, my team will know sometimes when I'm just not great. I'm just not great. This is rubbish today, and I can't deal with it. And it's fine, because then it allows everyone else to go I don't feel really well today. Like, it's cool. But when we're good to go, we got to win. So, yeah.
Yeah, it does feel like introspection is a big part of your personality and yourself as well. And honestly, do that as well.
Just seeking that deep knowledge of self, because then that way you know what value you add or need to be added to. So,
you feel, you spoke earlier about faith in your upbringing, and some elements there that were not harder sort of as a child, but it does also feel like there's a big element of faith that's very positive in your setup now. And I don't know if there's anything sort of you want to sort of talk about how you positively bring that sort of bigger picture and that faith into your philosophy and your work.
It's a huge thing over the last 4 or 5 years as I start to understand myself a bit more, because when I was younger, you would be labeled defiant and stuff, and it's like I just didn't feel that this was right. And I almost feel like kind of fortunate that I was able to discover very early that I wasn't, like, I welcomed the places that I didn't belong the most. Like, I welcomed it. It's like, and then reading the passage in the Bible, and there's stuff in the Quran and stuff in other like religious like practices that almost speaks about the places where you don't belong. And so therefore you push you to build in more spaces where you do belong. And by doing that for yourself, and maybe it goes back into me saying, like, serving yourself, you serve others. So by building that place where you're like, I didn't belong there, I didn't belong, but I feel like I belong here. You've now invited more people who probably felt the same, and then come in here, and then also then come into your space and say, I don't belong here, and then say, well, I need to build here. Either way, it's happening. So, which I feel like being of service is something that I feel like, for me, that God kind of sends us all to be, if you recognize it, that you're here for a purpose, no matter how long it is. You could, and so faith is huge. But I was saying, discovering it comes from a place of, you have to be humble, and you have to be super, and it's hard to be even in the most traumatic or devastation, or even when you're living in such challenges or whatsoever, and still remembering that you are of service, and remembering that God will not put you into something that he didn't feel you had the strength for. Like, it's just remembering those things. But when I say about four years ago, I think I wasn't in any difficulties, because I don't really pray when I'm in difficulties. It sounds crazy. I actually pray more when I'm in a place of joy, just because I'm like, thanks, man. Like, I see. I had no idea we were gonna get here. I just went, and that's the thing with faith, isn't it? Like, you just went with it because it delves so deeply. So yeah, faith is a huge thing for me. Like, I find it hard to explain how I add faith or take faith away, or where does my faith come into. It's like, isn't it everything? Like, when did it not ever exist? Sometimes I don't know how to. So yeah, and definitely I find that quite hard to just tell you, or even tell anyone just when or whatsoever. It's more or less when you discover yourself, and then recognize that, and then you're just like, but it's always been there. There's never a time. If I trace back to being younger and being defiant and wanting to, I think there was one time in boarding school where I think the teacher, this was my first serious lashing in boarding school, which I deserved, because the rules are you can't do this. But a friend of mine at boarding school, I think we were 8 or 7. We had our times table, and then we both studied really hard, and then we got there. And then if you get it wrong in Africa, like, you get like 1 or 2 lashes on your hands, and we take lashes. It's not that a big deal. But on this occasion, he took the 2 lashes for getting it wrong. But it wasn't the pain. It was more the fact that I think he really wanted to get it right, and did really like. And I remember sitting there watching him cry. I'm trying to tell him to stop crying, because it's now getting on my nerves. It's bringing some sort of feeling into me. I don't know if it's anger or whatsoever. And then I got up and then I got the cane and hit the teacher twice. The same. And literally the class was in shock. I got beat like in assembly. Yeah. I got like, but it felt like I had to get him for him. And it's just like, and that was even from thinking back to this, like, what possesses you to want to die, basically? It's like, in that way, that had nothing to do with you. You were good. You didn't get the lashes. He did. He's upset. He's just, and he's not, I don't know. And it just, all of that comes into like, would I do that now as an adult? 100%. Like, if I see something that just didn't feel like, I just can't. And then maybe that's what God's put into you from time. Just like, this is where we're meant to be. You're meant to feel that even more, so you can go and do something about it. Yeah. But yeah, faith has got me in a lot of trouble, but it's great. So if you ask me 3 years ago, even 2 years ago, whether my mother was my inspiration, I would like, no, not at all. You ask me now, and that's what I mean about evolution and growth. If she is, I'm like, actually, taking stock of all the things, she's not too bad. Like, and that's the thing of like time and what it does to you in terms of understanding, but also from what vantage point. So inspiration, I know it's quite a cliche thing, but I'm guessing my answer would let you know that it wasn't just like, oh, it's my mom and she's like, no, It might not have been, but yeah, she'll be one. I would say my wife is, and I hope she doesn't hear this, just because of the tenacity in which she puts into leveling the playing fields for your children and young people in education. I think that's probably what attracted me to her. Just also someone who wants to get involved into something that just, like, we could have just been cool. We could have just gone off to the sail off to this distance and just been like, no, I want to do this, and it has to be done for all children. So that inspiration is quite cool, and also teaching me about consistency in love. That because obviously when like background check on myself would be very much on isolation, loneliness, all of that stuff. So to get someone who says, who loves you and they don't want nothing back from you, you're like, nah, you want to do a deal. I know, I need to know where you're, what you want from here. Like, I've got no money, you know, like, but yeah, I'll say she's a good inspiration, but also like books as well. So I know, like, I mean, the cliche answer would be my faith being inspiration, but my faith is why I exist. So that doesn't, I don't know if that's part of inspiration, but I'm a servant, and it's my reason for getting up. So that's always going to be the highest. So I'm just looking at what it's also within, that's also come along in my way, in my journey, that's helped shape me, as part of, if it's God's gift or so on, to help shape me. So I'll say books will be like Genghis Khan's books.
Oh yeah?
Yeah, was a big source of get things done type of thing. Because I don't know if you guys have, and I would recommend anyone to read his book. Is like, he was in the dire straits of, like, he had no right to achieve what he achieved with nothing. But once again, there's something that drove him so deeply that his people was never gonna feel like this again. That made him have one of the biggest armies, like, or in the thing, we can paint the picture as what it is, whatever it is, but that came from a place of someone who once again had very little or nothing. So that Genghis Khan is quite a big one. What else? I'll say, like, there are one or two teachers in the past who've done something quite unique, like a way, and I feel like people can inspire so many people by just a small kindness. So one of my teachers that came to watch one of my games was like, oh, okay, you don't give me the attention because you hate me. You care about other aspects of my life as well. So that was quite important. And then, yeah, but I'll say mostly books, podcasts. I'm listening to 101 Easy Essays at the moment. Really good book. I'll say everyone to check out. The 1 Minute Manager as well is quite good. And then, yeah, music. It sounds really like cliche, but it also depends. Sources of inspirations are out there. It depends on how you interpret it as well. And then also just the many young people that I meet. Some just teach me so much, like that just sticks with me. A lot of them put a fight in my belly that I'm like, I've got this, don't worry. It's not gonna happen to anyone in your household ever again. So they're source of inspiration, because they go through all of that and they get up, they get dressed, they put on their school uniform, and arrive at a place where still disregards them and where it causes them the most abuse, and they turn up. I'm like, okay.
Is there anything you want to say about now? Present, Nana in the present?
I feel like I'm constant in a state of reflection at the moment.
I get that.
Present, like I'm in constant state of reflection, and then I'm like immediate goal as soon as it comes to me. So people would say meditation, prayer, and stuff. So I'm in a constant state of meditation and prayer, and not prayer for guidance and stuff. Just taking stock. So current now in my state is just taking stock of who am I, where am I, what do I not have, what do I have, what have I learned, what have I not learned, what do I need to learn, what's around me, am I paying attention to what's around me more, like being more present. And then I feel like that will give me the answer of like what I need to go, it'll give me the direction.
But it's so important. And then, you know, it's like, especially when you're running an organization, you know, for us, it's managing our work, trying to grow companies and organizations, and then just trying to like stay alive by keeping productive. But then like you do all that stuff, and if you don't take time for yourself to think about it, course correct, reflect, like you just end up like the snowball or the spinning, it just spins up and gets faster and faster and faster. And then you feel like, I think that's probably where I hit burnout, which is actually where I am now.
You need to take that time.
I need to take some time. Yeah.
It's important that we promote that vulnerability and that time. Someone explained it really simply to me in terms of like my laptop wasn't working properly, and he was like, not only have we got programs on behind the scenes, which is fine, it can do that, but if you don't shut down, it's working constantly even if you close the laptop, so it slows it down, and that's why it's now jumping and glitching. So it's like literally it's like, so just turn it off. Just turn it off and then turn it back on.
All the years I've been a photographer and working in film, the number of young creatives that come up to me and they'll ask about some of the key things that have led to my biggest growth, or like what are the big things that I do that sort of lead to my biggest successes and that happiness. And meditation, I always say, you're going to expect me to talk to you about camera technique or how I work with top tier talent or whatever that is. Like, no. Number one for me is a mindfulness practice, is a giving yourself the space, meditation. Personally, that's like I go to, like, without fail. Like, sometimes it's longer, sometimes it's shorter, depending on the day. But like first thing in the morning, get that clarity. All my big ideas will come after a period of that silence. Calmer and more present, and so I could fill up a whole episode of the benefits for me. I think that's the number one thing. So I don't know if there's any more. You touched on that; it's a big thing for you. But is there anything else that you want to share around that kind of practice, or things, maybe some examples of how that's really benefited you? Because I just you mentioned it's almost like counterculture, because we're kind of used to just like grinding and going 100 miles an hour, and there's a value for that, and I feel you should do that too. But giving yourself the space to really come up with those big ideas, really make the difference, comes from that. So
definitely. And I think it's also like where you choose to spend what you choose to do with your time. So do we all remember that time's a gift? And if we don't, I don't know, and we don't, if we don't, then you then misuse it. So it's a gift. So where am I spending it? So in my time, like community leader, mentor, a CEO, father, husband, and then you're going like all that time, like all the things, all those hats you've got to wear at certain times, then where's the bit where you just go and then Nana? And then it's like, okay, Nana's the one who's got to do all those other 5 things or 6 things that they got to do. So where's the time for Nana? And then it's then remember that is, and what I'm like almost explaining to yourself that none of those things happens if you are not here. So spend that time, like just leave. It's just it's not even a justification. It's just going, well, this is how you prep or train in order to go and achieve, like to play that big match of all those things. So you're gonna constantly just exist in those matches or fail in those matches if you don't spend. I'm going back to a sports analogy, isn't it? But like you will miss those things if you don't say that the one piece of thing that needs to happen for it to take place, which is you. So those times are important. But I'll say those spaces of like, once again, reflection. But it doesn't have to be. I like work on being comfortable with having alone time. Like, and doing nothing. Like some people can't do anything without having something on in the background and stuff. I find it difficult. Sometimes I need a noise and stuff behind me, but now I'm practicing when I'm in the car. Okay, turn everything off. Like, because that might be my time just before I transition from work to becoming a father or a husband. Just shut down or put on something that's just calming and gets you to think outside. And also, I think also those reflection times or the spaces is really being intentional with the moments you're spending. So I 100% look forward to spending time with my children. It's it's not a chore. It's not after because I'm tired for the end of the day. What would I want if I was younger? I would love to have had those times with my parents. So you've got an opportunity to do it better. Be intentional with it. So it's one of those things of like, just stop moaning, look at this, get on with it. Once again, cherish the time that you're given, and then being intentional about it.
It's the intentionality in the presence, isn't it? You know, when you do have multiple hats that you're wearing, and there's, you know, as you progress creative or as a leader or business owner or whatever, you're gonna, the higher up you go, there's gonna be more things and more levels of responsibility and constant work. You constantly be checking. But it's like, for me, I'm 100% in whatever I'm doing now, and I have to do that. And I get a little bit fried if I start to let that slip and try and do multiple things at once. And that's where everything, you know, not to the standard I should do. But no, I really appreciate that. That's a great way of framing it. London is like, you know, your own time and carve that out. And it's also not having a guilt around that. That was my own thing to get, for instance, like, you know, I'm going to carve out that 3-4 hours to, like, you know, to think, to step away and not be reactive. But without that recharge, everything else is just at 70-80%, and it's not 100% you, isn't it? It's almost doing it without having to justify it.
And it gets you to think about, well, why do you think you don't deserve any time to yourself?
It's a worthiness, right? And I think you get what you're worthy of as well. And it's I think there's a real power in it, and everyone else benefits more if you're, you know, you can be honest with yourself and say, no, I'm uncontactable for this sort of time block. Yeah. If you dialed forward 18 months now and you've achieved everything you've set out and all those goals for yourself and for Badu, like, what am I looking at?
You're looking at an organization that supports others to build like we have. Like, honestly, there's no point of going through all of this, having those knowledge and not literally helping someone else to not have to climb the same way you climbed. Just make it easier for them. So for us, we're really, I'll say we, but I'm really focused. We are really focused on like how we get a better, like, unique IP of what we've learned and share that knowledge in supporting people, but also make it in a way that is, we don't ask them to jump through the 50 million hoops that we constantly have to jump through to get that support system. So that's what the future looks like. Can we work towards becoming a funder ourselves and making it so simple for someone who's got an idea that's burning or a problem that they want to solve, and we're making you do lots of jumps, and it's like, no, let's have a go, because it could work for humanity, or we can learn something for it. Either way, we win. So yeah, that's like, that's the 18 months from now, that's the thing for organizationally that we push towards. Yeah.
Love the energy, love the clarity around that. So there's two elements off the back of that. What would stand in your way of that not happening?
My faith wavering. If my faith wavers about what is so clear, then that's the only thing that stands in the way. I honestly, sounds ridiculous, but I don't see anyone like anything else apart from, if I'm blessed to have this opportunity and this vision and this clarity, then I just have to keep pushing through. Everything else is just learning in hurdles.
I always say the only thing that stops me getting anything I'm looking to achieve is self-doubt. Nothing else. So I love this one. The impact you've spoken about there, which is just transformative. How would you 10x that impact? How would you get to a point that's sort of even bigger than you on a gigantic targets? How would you get?
So really want to try and make sure that we're being global in our aspirations and our way of thinking. And also, how do we do this? So you guys will know that my ambitions in Africa and what I want to do around Africa, the Caribbean, just places where almost freedom and time and reflection, also understanding that they have a knowledge already has been almost removed through media consumption, or just poverty of knowledge being passed through to say that you actually have this. So in terms of like maximizing that, it's building that same ethos and mindset to do that, but also inviting more young people to understand what I've learned and then also lead that, because they're the ones, when I talk about the future, they're the ones who are going to lead it and then shape it to what they think is necessary for that time as well. So I think maximizing that will definitely be inspiring and empowering more people to share that knowledge, share whatever we give to them, and then know that it's a gift to be given out. But also investing in businesses, bring them into the Badu fold as much as possible. It's almost like grow together, and then if you need to fly off, then fly off. If you want to fly together, then we'll fly together. But you've got a solid base. You've got like a, you know, that thing there where I feel like I'll constantly have a belonging of like I serve God and God looks after me. So therefore, nothing else, like I don't feel lost. So if you can't, and it takes a long time to be sure of that clarity and the mindset. But my thing is almost demonstrating that in the physical aspect very quickly. So by having the Badu group or so on, supporting them, backing you and just pushing you and celebrating you, crying with you, whatever it is at that point of where you are, then hopefully that will help you to almost, we'll run a race with you until you're ready to run it by yourself mindset. That's just how I feel. I feel like empowering people.
Nana, we can't thank you enough for your time today. Yeah, blown me away. It's incredible. Thank you very much. And we'll put a bunch of links in the show notes to Badu and all the great work you're doing. Yeah, and let's have great work and impact.
No, brilliant. Thank you very much for having me.